Admitted to the Conservative Party just yesterday after having the whip suspended. He's told us the party got it wrong when it came to the mini-budget, but he says the approach is changing and now it's not the time to have a general election.
It's a very typical thing for those in opposition when the government is in trouble to say, let's have a general election. And I can quite understand that. We did that when Gordon Brown came on and said, look, where's his mandate? Our system, the construct that we have in the UK, is that we don't elect a president, you elect a party to go in office. And therefore, it's for the parliamentarians to choose the Prime Minister, and occasionally Prime Ministers indeed are replaced whilst in office. We're now going to roll out a very different approach to managing the economy. More details will come on the 31st of October in the next fiscal statement. So calling for a general election right now wouldn't give you an opportunity to really understand where our party is then going. And you might then get something which you then regret because you didn't give the opportunity to hear about this new direction.
Well, Scottish Lib Dem MP Christine Jardine has accused the government of causing chaos for the country. She's told Andrew Castle on LBC the only way to get stability is to have a vote.
Government is there to protect people. Government is there to make sure they run the economies. And this government, series of prime ministers has failed.
Christine, are you going to? Are you in agreement that taking the basic rate of tax down from 20 to 19p was the right thing to do?
Well, yeah, but the government don't seem to think so now. The government don't seem to know what they're doing.
Well, they're going to put it back up, aren't they?
The problem is that the government doesn't seem to be able to make up its mind from one day to the next what it's doing. And the mini-budget, the disastrous mini-budget they came up with caused chaos in the markets. And now we've got no stability. The markets don't have any confidence in this government.
We'll see what happens on Monday now, won't we?
Well, that is the problem. We will see what happens on Monday, but the Chancellor on Monday needs to come to the House and needs to explain what the government is going to do now. Okay. And, it needs to be a clear plan to get us out of this. Not more confusion, not more money. We need a universal credit uplift in line with inflation. We need to make sure that families, pensioners, businesses can get through this winter, and this government isn't doing that.
Well, former Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, Sir Charles Bean, says the new Chancellor has so far set the right tone in his early days in office.
Importantly, he recognised that there were some difficult decisions ahead he was going to have to make pretty quickly, I have to say, in the next couple of weeks on both taxes and spending. And the important thing to realise is not simply just a case of changing the identity of the Chancellor or bringing forward the Office of Budget Responsibilities report. It's actually the contents and how the numbers add up. And even before the mini-budget, in the medium term, there would have been a hole in the public finances of 30 billion or so, to which the government layered on another 45, subsequently reduced to 43 billion. Now, they've done a U-turn on a little less than 20 billion of that. So there's still 40 billion they've got to find from somewhere. That's very chunky. So that's why he's right to say there's some very difficult decisions. And the crucial thing will be whatever is published in a couple of weeks' time on October the 31st is coherent, and that the markets see there is a viable and plausible plan for making everything fit together.
The news in 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes. This is LBC News.
Motherwell 0, Rangers 2 is the latest score this afternoon. 68 minutes on the clock in that one. Manchester United 3, Brighton and Hove Albion 0 in the Women's Super League. Ella Toone scored twice. She has now just been substituted in that one. More from all of today's football to come. Turning our attention to matters in Ukraine, where France says it's going to train up to 2,000 Ukrainian soldiers to help them push back against Russian forces. Kyiv's military have been meeting resistance since recapturing land previously occupied by Moscow's troops. Russia's been calling up army reservists to fight in the conflict. Former British military intelligence officer Philip Ingram has been sharing his assessment on the latest on the ground.
The actual tactical situation, the fighting on the ground, hasn't changed much over the last few days. In the central bit, the Russians are making small progress towards the village of Bakhmut. However, it's unlikely that they're probably going to take over the city. They're being held quite carefully by the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are having some successes on their flanks. So in the northeast of Izium, near the village of Kevliskova, the Ukrainians are having some success, building on the massive success they had a couple of weeks ago in taking over a large proportion of that territory. And then down in the south, in Kherson, the Kremlin-appointed leader of the Kherson region has pleaded with the Kremlin to help him evacuate the final civilians out of there and call the civilians to get out, which suggests that he's expecting that to fall. We've heard rumours going around, unconfirmed at the moment, that Putin may be trying to give that area up for some form of deal or anything else. So things are changing there, but I think that's where we're going to see the next piece on the ground.
Russian state agencies are reporting that the mayor's office in Donetsk, controlled by pro-Kremlin separatists, has been struck by rockets today. There were no immediate reports of casualties. The government is trying to crack down on the level of disruption caused by protesters. The Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, has announced plans to give police more powers when it comes to tackling demonstrators who block roads or lock themselves together. A number of climate campaigners, meanwhile, have been back on the streets of central London today. Some were detained by police for stopping traffic on Park Lane and for spraying a luxury car showroom with paint. LBC's Lily Almond was there.
In front of me right now, the glass walls of the Aston Martin showroom on Park Lane are covered with splashes of orange liquid, which looks much like the paint that was sprayed at the new Scotland Yard sign not so long ago. This paint is all over the signs of Aston Martin and is running down onto the pavement where I'm stood right now. Loads of police here, as you can imagine, and the Met have told me that in total 11 were arrested in this Just Stop Oil action. One of them was lying down in front of me while the police carried them into a van, saying that just outlining Just Stop Oil's demands and an end to fossil fuels. This was all on Park Lane within the last few minutes and came after 14 supporters of Just Stop Oil walked onto Park Lane. It's a big 4-lane road outside Hyde Park, and sat down on this road with banners. A number glued themselves to the tarmac while others locked themselves together. And this all comes as Suella Braverman has unveiled her plans for a major crackdown on these kinds of protests favoured, she says, by climate activists, as she's pledged to stop demonstrators holding the public to what she called ransom. The Home Secretary has said that she'll give the police new powers to take a more proactive approach to some protests, with some of the measures specifically targeted at the tactics used by some environmental groups. It all comes, of course, after Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion activists have staged various protests and demonstrations in recent months. Ms Braverman had already voiced her opposition to this type of protest favoured by environmental activists, telling the Tory conference earlier this month that there is not a human right to vandalise property. Meanwhile, though, in Hyde Park, you might be able to hear separate action right now. This is from Extinction Rebellion, who will be marching from Hyde Park to Parliament Square today in their third day of the Festival of Resistance.
LBC News.
Oh, Gary, it feels incredible to have sold our home.
My love, it sold ever so fast.
My heart is so happy. Well, it could just burst. Oh.
Sorry to ruin the mood, but it's no surprise you sold. Near good schools, nice area. Could have saved thousands with purple bricks.
Oh, gosh, I've come over all queasy.
If you're selling a lovely home, save yourself from commisery with Purple Bricks.
Savings based on Purple Bricks flat fee versus using a high street estate agent paying an average 1.3% commission.
Pay, get paid. Pay, get paid. With Barclaycard, get paid in store. Get paid online. Get paid from Switzerland. Cash flow. Pay suppliers on time, every time. Become their favourite client. Get thank you gift basket of macaroons. Get cash back on business spend. New espresso machine in staff room. Oh, paperwork. Wait, free accounting software. Search Barclaycard Payments. The payment part is just the start. Offers now available. The approval of your application depends on financial circumstances and borrowing history. T's and C's apply. Free accounting software provided by FreshBooks for selected Barclaycard customers only.
When your tenants have a burst pipe, superheroes crashing through the wall isn't going to help anyone. With Direct Line Landlord Emergency added to your policy, we're on it to send a rather super plumber in 4 hours and guarantee they'll use the doorbell. We can also assemble locksmiths, glaziers, electricians and drainage engineers. Search Direct Line Landlord Emergency. We're on it. Direct Line. Residential properties. Optional add-on up to £1,500 per call-out. Extreme weather conditions may extend response time. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
Yakult. Billions of bacteria on a mission to spread good vibes. With their unique bacteria on a perilous voyage into your gut. And scientifically proven to reach the gut alive. Yakult, the little bottle on a mission.
LBC News. Weather.
Dry and sunny in southern parts of the country for much of today, but rain and strong winds are gradually moving north. Expect a breezy mix of sunshine and showers in northern England and Scotland. Some of that rain will become heavy at times with highs of 18 degrees. Cloud and rain will move in across southern parts later in the day with stronger winds picking up, but tonight we'll see more clear and chilly spells in the north. Overnight lows of 8 degrees.
LBC News.
Let's turn our attention to this afternoon's football, and leaders Arsenal hope to maintain their position at the top with a win at Leeds today. They could go 4 points clear at the summit before champions Manchester City go to Liverpool. And LBC's Tom Dunn will be at Anfield for us this afternoon. And we discuss the home side who have yet to really hit their stride this season.
It's hard to make a case for Liverpool this afternoon, David, given their start to this season. As we know, Liverpool have had their problems with injuries this season, but also digging a bit deeper into that, is there still a hangover from last season? You know, it's hard to forget, isn't it, that Liverpool nearly went the whole season winning every single trophy. They got to the Champions League final. They finished second in the league to Manchester City. All seems a very far cry away that now, doesn't it? You know, Liverpool are not the same team they were 6 months ago. Lots of people pointing fingers that maybe Sadio Mane is the reason they aren't firing this season. We heard Jurgen Klopp in his press conference this week as well, talking about how there's no ceiling for certain clubs in the Premier League, not naming any names, of course, but you would imagine he meant one of those was their opponents today, Manchester City, who, in stark contrast, have looked like an absolute beast this season. And, you know, you've got to feel sorry for Liverpool's defenders today, whichever four line up against that front three of Phil Foden, Erling Haaland, and whether it be Julian Alvarez or Riyad Mahrez on the right wing, you know, that would strike fear into the hearts of any defence across Europe.
What have you made of Darwin Núñez so far?
A big money signing for Liverpool. I think he was almost the record signing. Obviously comes with bonuses and appearance fees in this contract, but he hasn't quite hit the ground running. And I think a lot of people are comparing him to Erling Haaland, which I think is quite unfair towards Darwin Núñez. You know, Erling Haaland breaking records week on week, it seems. Núñez had a good start to the season. He, of course, scored the winner in the Community Shield final against today's opponents, and he also scored on the opening day of the season against Fulham. But since that red card in that first game against Anfield, he had 3 games out, and he has scored a couple of goals since coming back, including one against Arsenal last week. But I still think the formation and the way Liverpool play is still trying to work him into that team. Whether it comes good or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I think any comparisons people are making towards him and Erling Haaland are probably a bit unfair.
And it's a bit frightening to think that Erling Haaland has only played 30